Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Corey, better known as the Seaman, and I want to welcome you to another edition of the Seaman's Cinema Sit Down. I am still down in Jersey, dog sitting for my parents, but for the first time in what feels like a very long time, I've actually got some legit free time, and there's a bunch of things I need to get caught up on. I mean, we've been watching Mando and Ahsoka the last couple of days, but there are some movies and things that I have seen already that I haven't talked about, and that's this right here is one of those things, man. And I'm so fascinated to see what the audience response is to this movie as it finally comes out this week, considering there have been preview screenings almost every day at like one preview screening a day almost for like the last 2.5+ weeks. I saw this like 2 weeks ago. It's just getting ready to come out. That being said, well, I'll be interested to see how that hurts the box office. Doesn't seem like the best marketing strategy. I would have done like 2 screenings preview wise to get good word of mouth going, because this thing is really, really good. So I'm fascinated to see how that plays out. But like I said, this is a really good movie, and one that I hope people will watch if they haven't, and they will go support out at the movie theater. What are we talking about? Why don't you pull up a chair, take a seat? I'm finally getting ready to dive in, spoiler free, into Gran Turismo. And like I said, I believe the movie comes out this weekend, but they have been dropping preview screenings like every day for almost 2 weeks, which is just nuts. I've never seen a movie do that, and I've seen movies hurt themselves with like 2 or 3 preview screenings. So I'll be fascinated to see how the box office goes. But I think as far as reception and critical acclaim and audience acclaim, this movie is going to be a lot of people's like top. It doesn't break into my top 10, but there are just a lot of really good movies this year, and a lot of really good movies that speak directly to me. But this was one that I was really intrigued by because it's not a video game movie. Gran Turismo is a game you can play on PlayStation and Xbox, although people who play it quite often will tell you that it is a racing simulator. The way the game works and how you can buy they have like the arcade versions that you'll see at like arcades, but you could buy like the steering wheel and the shifts and stuff, and it creates a really, really unbelievable racing simulation to the point it's so real. Nissan, I've always said Nissan, but they say Nissan in the movie like the whole time, and now I feel like I'm getting into like a cross of the two. But Nissan, basically their marketing team goes, this game impacts so many users. You want to get people who are playing video games into cars? Let's create an academy and take the fastest and top players in the sim into real life. And that's what happens to driver Jan Mardenborough, who's our main character. Goes to one of these academies, becomes a real racer, and it's really fun to watch people that come from the racing world be forced to work with this kid and be so reluctant to only have them win them over because he really does know the ins and outs of the car, even though he's only been playing the game, and he has natural instincts that make him a very good racer. And it creates a really, really cool story. And what's even, I think, more cool is that when our lead actor here, Archie Marique, when he's not on screen and he's being stunt doubled, the real life Jan Mardenborough is doing all of the stunts, which I thought was so freaking cool. But I want to start with Neil Blomkamp because he's our director here, and he's someone I would never have pegged to do like biography story, like a based on a true story type thing. I mean, he comes from he's one of the lone directors who's just crushing in really cool sci-fi like spots all the time. I mean, District 9 is one of my all-time favorite alien movies like ever. And I was really intrigued because I'm like, man, here's this guy who does this like really interesting, unique sci-fi stuff, and he's gonna take on this true story about racing and video games. And I think what Blomkamp brings from behind the camera, a lot of those sci-fi looks and vibes and feels that he has, when you apply them to racing, create really, really cool visual sequences. And then that mindset allows him to mix stuff in with the racing that feels like it's coming right out of the game. That does things where like you can transition from the game to the racing and you just sit there and you're like, oh, that was so cool. And there's like a full circle kind of moment in that realm where I was sitting there going, yo, Blommy crushing it, man. And that's the thing. All of the racing sequences have you on the edge of your seat. You feel what's at stake every time Jan gets in the car. And whether that's at the academy or when he finally gets into some of the actual races, things that happen to him and things that he experienced put you on edge, man, and make the racing scenes so satisfying. And one of the other things I thought was really interesting is that the movie builds to Le Mans. And we obviously saw Ford versus Ferrari crush telling a story that takes place at Le Mans. And I was really interested to see how this could differ or be different. And the things that Blomkamp does, both from what he shows in the ceremonies to things that go on in the race, create a little bit of a different vibe to Le Mans than what Ford v Ferrari did, and create something that's kind of unique and fun. And I think some of my favorite stuff that he does with the camera is he likes using drones, and a lot of the drone flyovers and maneuvers are really, really sweet. But he does it more than once where he actually has the drone kind of riding the race line, but the opposite way. So it's coming the way that the cars are going to race, and then it's flying into the cars as they're coming at you. He also does a really cool thing where I think if you're a racer, like whether you're in a car or like in track and field, if you've ever participated in any kind of racing or timed events, you know that a second is forever. And even a half a second can be a really big difference. And there's one moment in the movie where he just kind of puts the camera steady for a second in one spot. And you see the leader, and then like the person behind is only a second or so behind. And it feels like an eternity watching the visual until it finally passes. And I thought that was a really cool way to capture how tight a second, or how far away a second can be when you think it can be really tight. And how he plays with that stuff, I really, really dug. Not everything worked for me here. There's definitely, the first time through, definitely a little bit of a pacing issue coming from the first act to the second act. The first act is the build up to going to the academy before he becomes a racer, and it almost kind of feels like a mini movie. Like you get to the end of the academy and you're like, how much more do we have left in the movie? I feel like we're like building to like the end, and then there's a lot more. So there's definitely something pacing-wise that's a little off there. The other thing is that he really makes the first act very family-oriented. We really get to spend a lot of time with Jan and his family and the interactions that he has with those characters. And then that kind of drops off once he becomes a racer. And it was one of these things that I thought was kind of weird, because it's like when he gets through and he makes it, his mom's response wasn't as like excited as I thought it would be, and then like it didn't feel like they were really following as tight. And then all of a sudden they're just like at this like one race watching, and you're like, oh man, okay, cool, the family's back. But one of the things that I love that Blomkamp does is he really does allow his actors a lot of freedom to bring a lot of personality in themselves into this role and or into these roles. And someone like the legendary at this point Djimon Hounsou, who plays Jan's father, you get some really strong stuff with them in the beginning, and then that kind of, like I said, dissipates in the middle toward the end of the movie, where like the family just isn't present at all, and then they kind of come back, and you get this moment that's extremely emotional between the two of them, and the acting is able to fill so many gaps and lift so many areas that like don't quite hit on the script, because it's just phenomenal. And that's the thing that I really like more than anything with this movie, is that yes, while Blomkamp gives you some wonderful racing shots and the action is great and you're on the edge of your seat and like the movie is a thrill ride, the acting is really, really top notch. And it starts with David Harbour, who plays Jack Salter, a former racer who got into a crash, retired early, and could have been like one of the greatest American racers of all times. Like got to Le Mans very early on, and career didn't go that way. And then he became like a chief engineer for like 20 plus years. So he is the guy that Danny Moore, played by Orlando Bloom, who's the marketing head at Nissan, comes to. Like Nissan will only let him do this if they get a chief engineer that will guarantee it's super safe. And Jack ends up being kind of like a rock in a hard place, and it's like, you know what, this is a better situation than what I'm in. And Harbour is absolutely electric. The way that he leans into the love of racing and like the things that Jack would know or try to teach, I love. The joy that you see in his face in certain moments, like there are a couple moments specifically toward the end where I was just like, that feels so genuine. The way that he cares about all of the drivers at the academy. Like, he is a tough guy, right? Like, it's not like, oh man, you friggin' video game kids have made it to the coolest thing ever. It's like, no, y'all could die out there, and I'm here to prove that you are not up to snuff to do this. And what's cool is several of the people that go through that academy do end up making it in like lower racing leagues and stuff. But watching him come around as the racers start to win him over by actually showing that they can race in a real car outside of the video game. It's just, you get this kind of like fatherly figure that starts off very stern and very like anti everything, and kind of comes around to everything because of, I think, all of the racers and the ones that are really good that can do the racing. I think they rub off on him and they give him like some hope. But Jan, the way that he ends up connecting with Jan and how Jan gets to the pros, there's just this fatherly figureness to Harbor where it's like, okay, this kid has the natural skills. It's gonna take some time, but I'm not gonna like let him fall apart if he's struggling, right? Like, the way he takes care of him and protects him is just so wonderful. And then like the energy and just electricity of David Harbour rocks this movie. Orlando Bloom, really enjoyed seeing him back on the screen. I haven't watched Carnival Row yet, so I feel like I haven't seen Orlando in anything in a very long time, and it was great to have him on screen. You know, he is a character that you can like and hate at times, which I feel like in a marketing sense makes a lot of sense for what his character is. But same thing, like his interactions, while sometimes with the racers seems a little disingenuine, and some of the things he's doing seem more business driven, when they give Danny human moments, it really connects. And his chemistry with Harbour is phenomenal, and both of their chemistries with Archie Madique, who plays Jean Martinborough, are great. And Archie is fantastic, man. He's this kind of quiet, keep to yourself gamer kid, right? And watching him come out of that shell and gain confidence as he goes through the process and starts to do more racing and realizes that trusting his instincts make him a better racer. And how that plays into the story and how he gets to where he gets is really cool. And I just thought Madique really like handles that stuff in a way that's just so charismatic and electric, even though he is a little bit subdued. And like I said, seeing him start to break out because of his confidence, like there's a moment where he kind of gets into it with somebody and you're like, I didn't know that this kid could do that, but that was freaking awesome. And seeing him trust that he is a racer and breaking into the sport the way that he does, I just thought that Archie did a really, really good job. Then you got his parents, Leslie and Steve, played by Jerry Horner, who is very good as his mom. But like I said, I just thought some of the writing with like how the parents and the family disappear in the middle of the movie was a little weird. But I genuinely liked her as the mother figure here. And then Jaimin Hansu, I mean, that dude is one of the greatest to ever do it. You know what I mean? And it is one of these things where it's like you kind of bungle the family story a little bit, yet you come into a moment where you need this thing to happen and connect with the audience with very little story building between the characters and a gap in time where we haven't seen these characters together, and Hansu just comes in, and I swear to God, if you're not rolling tears during that sequence, I don't know what's wrong with you, man. The emotion that dude can put into a scene and just what he can capture and how much lifting he can do with things that are missing inside of a movie is just so impressive to watch. And then Jan's brother, Kobe, played by Daniel Puig, again, someone else who I really, really dug at the beginning of the movie, and that relationship was really interesting. You know, his Jan's dad isn't about the video games or the racing or the car stuff. He was a soccer player, played at Brighton. And Kobe is the son that's going down the route of trying to become a professional footballer. So that dynamic just between like the brother and the father and, you know, Jan is so unique. But that relationship between Kobe and Jan is one that I was really liking, and we kind of lose that, which was a little disappointing for me. But I thought that Daniel Puig did a wonderful job. Maeve Courtier Lilly, who plays Audrey, kind of the female love interest for Jan. Again, someone who I really dug. Doesn't get much screen time, but when she pops in and she has moments, I really like the chemistry between the two of them, and is like a fun driving force, I think, for Jan, having this girl in the mix. And how Harbor is able to utilize that a little bit. Same with Bloom with Moore and Salter. Like there's some fun stuff in there that I really enjoyed. Then your other racers, there's a bunch of them, and I'm seeing now that not all of them are present on this list. Because where is? Yeah, they don't have. So there's. All right, hold on. You're gonna. IMDb always does this. All right, yeah. So there's a whole group of racers, but there are three that really pop for me and that have good interactions and chemistry with Jan throughout the course of the movie. And that is Matty Davis, played by Darren Barnett. He's that's the cool thing too, is they get people from all over the world to come to the academy. So you get people from different countries. Danny is your prototypical American, along with I believe it's Leah, played by Amelia Hartford. They're kind of like your two American characters, and Matty encompasses, I think, everything that makes a stereotypical like American. He's there to win. He doesn't care about necessarily making friends. He comes off like a giant a-hole in a lot of scenarios, and yet this kid has one of the most heartwarming moments with Jan in the entire movie. I really, really enjoyed what we got from Darren Barnett. I really thought he handled it really well, and it made that character way more layered and interesting. The other person that really pops for me in that realm, like I said, Leah Vega, played by Amelia Hartford. It's fun to see like a female gamer get into the race car, and there's a couple of them that make it into the academy, but Leah's the one that goes the furthest. And it's fun to kind of have that in the mix. And like I said, again, she kind of becomes part of this group that really rallies around Jan a little bit. And again, a spot where I could have used a little bit more time. They give her and Audrey like a little bit of time on screen together. I wish they could have dived in more there. But again, these side characters, it never feels like you're missing anything, but if you would have added more, I think the actors really gave quite a bit of solid stuff. And then the last one I'll call out, I believe, is Pepe Barroso, who plays Antonio Cruz. Again, part of that kind of clique that like is sort of tight with Jan. He brings a lot of energy, and he's a lot of fun. And the ways specifically him, Maddie, and Leah are used past the academy, I just really enjoyed that stuff on screen. And yeah, I mean, really everybody that shows up here, I think, really brings something in the acting side of it, but it really comes down to Archie, Harbor, and Bloom. And those three are electric the whole movie, specifically Harbor and Archie. Their chemistry and the way that they work together, it plays so well, and it really is the heart of the movie that just gets you to engage so much with the character stories that when different things happen to Jan, you're either floored or you're emotionally like connected in a way that's very intense, or you're on the edge of your seat because these races and the way that they're shot are just so freaking dope. And there's a couple things that happen from the races that are like recreated that are almost like to a T. In particular, the one that like everybody will talk about when you see this movie. But yeah, I think Blomkamp does a really wonderful job of, keeping you on the edge of your seat, keeping the engine running and revving. It's just that first act into the second act, like going from the academy to the racing. There's a little funkiness in there, but otherwise, I think this thing really does hit across the board. So let's get the C-Maniacs up. Neil Blomkamp might be a legend in the sci-fi realm, but he captures the racing in this in just really glorious ways. The way he's able to combine the game and concepts and visuals with how he shoots the racing is really cool. Everything keeps you on the edge of your seat. And you're so invested from jump. And I think that's the one thing that Blomkamp does the best throughout, that even where there are some pacing issues and some minor blips, what you're seeing and how you're experiencing the academy and the races, it's really, really thrilling. And you add in a really top-end sound design and a really solid score for all of this, and what you are getting just from absorbing what's on screen really, really pops. And then you have a group of actors here that are all extremely charismatic. They all pop on screen, and no matter where it's coming from, whether it's the supporting cast and people like Jamin Hansu or Darren Barnett, or your main trio of Harbour, Bloom, and Madikwe, it's just phenomenal acting across the board. And Archie Madikwe, I mean, talk about just like one of them like almost career defining moments, but like what a splash, right? Like as a fresh face in Hollywood, he really crushes. And like again, is a reserved kind of quieter character that breaks out as he gains his confidence in the racing, and how he interacts with Harbour and Bloom is just wonderful. And the interactions between Harbour and Bloom are great because they don't always see eye to eye. But watching how all of it works, man, seeing things from the marketing side, from the racing side, from the gaming side, all of it clicks and creates a really, really, I think, special movie-going experience. This is definitely one to be seen in the theaters if you can. It definitely makes it pop, and it makes everything that you're connected to and all that tension and just thrill ride-ness that much better. I'm going 4 out of 5 Sea Maniacs. This is definitely one of my favorite films of the year. It's in the top half, but there's been a lot of strong movies. But yeah, this thing, I mean, it could have been an absolute 5 slam dunk if you could have smoothed out the transition from the Academy to the actual racing and not lost that family story. But everything else is stellar here. So 4 out of 5 Sea Maniacs for the old Seaman. I'm shutting up. I'm turning it over to you. I want to know what you're thinking. Have you seen Gran Turismo yet? Like I said, there have been preview screenings going on way longer than they should be. No idea what's going to happen at the box office this weekend. But are you planning on seeing it? If you haven't, if you have seen it, what'd you think? What was working? What was not working? Did you like how Blomkamp incorporated game elements into the visuals? Did the visuals work for you? How thrilling was the movie? Did you like the score, the sound design, the performances? What'd you think of Archie Madikwe, Harbour, Bloom? Anything there. And if you haven't seen the movie, have we enticed you? Are you interested? Do you want to watch it? Are you a gamer? Anything you got, man, good, bad, indifferent on Gran Turismo, put it down below in the comments section. I look forward to talking to you down there. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you're new, you want to come hang out with C-Man anytime we're talking movies, TV, trailer, reactions, we got to talk about The Last Voyage of the Demeter. Obviously, Ahsoka coverage is going on. As that gets kicked off, I've got some things that I'm catching up on. Reactions are coming. You want to be here for all of that, any of that. You want to show a little love and support. Hey, come join C-Maniac Nation as we approach 4,000 subscribers. Simply by jumping over there, hitting the subscribe button, hit that little bell if you want those alerts. And until next time, for the Seaman Cinema, sit down. I've been the Seaman. I'm signing off. Peace. Oh, you guys are still here. You snuck up on me. You must be looking for more of this guy. Well, I got 2 video options for you, man. Right up here and right over here. And if you want all those Seaman goodies, well, hey, come join the squad right on over there. And I'll catch you on the next one.